So I think I just watched the most surprising show so far this year. With super disappointing shows like Secret Invasion, I honestly didn't have much faith in new streaming shows. I instead have been watching more older shows and getting caught up on things I missed, like South Park and Modern Family. When I saw the Twisted Metal show up, I was really shocked. See, I'd played the game a bit, but I never really got into it, and honestly always felt like it never really had a story, but was just kind of a battle royale car kind of game. But then again, I was a dumb idiot child who probably didn't even pay attention half the time to what was actually going on. I just knew clown car and car go fast, and that's pretty much it. And then I saw Anthony Mackie was the lead, and see, I never forgot about that phase on Twitter where everyone was making fun of him. I just feel like he has such a goofy vibe, and honestly when I first started the show, I felt like he was just overly goofy and it's too much. Like the character he plays here in the show is inherently goofy within itself, but I just didn't take him as that character seriously. But man, was I wrong. I feel like a dumb idiot adult now because I judged this show way too fast. This is easily one of the most enjoyable shows I've seen in the last few months. Honestly, this might be one of my favorite shows of the year, not because it's an amazing show, but just because it is so enjoyable. I just loved watching it. And so like I said, I had played Twisted Metal before a bit, but I never really knew it had a story. I just kind of knew a sweet tooth, and that's pretty much it. So I honestly have no idea if how accurate this is to the source material or anything like that. I'm not even sure if Anthony Mackie's character John Doe is a real character in the universe or not, or if he's made up like how the Mortal Kombat movie did that one thing with that guy that was never actually in the video game and has its own original character. I hate to say it, but I think I might be an Anthony Mackie fan now, or at least a fan of the character he plays here. He for sure grew on me, and I think after maybe like the first episode, I was super into the show, and honestly I found myself really liking it. The quiet character I initially found super annoying and just honestly upsetting, but after the third or fourth episode she did grow on me, and she's kind of Anthony Mackie's like romance / partner in crime throughout the show, you know? And I was low-key ready to hate on this show, but I was honestly really ready to hate on the show, and I was ready for a huge, Twisted Metal is a gigantic disappointment kind of vibe on YouTube. And not to say that people don't like it, because I do think there are going to be people that don't like this show, but I'm happy to say that I think this might be one of my favorite shows so far. It does this thing where it kind of mixes a ton of genres together. It has a post-apocalyptic Walking Dead kind of vibe, but with the car action of something like Mad Max or even like Fast and the Furious. It's just kind of over-the-top action. Not so over-the-top because obviously the show is still in its first season, so I don't think they wanted to blow a huge budget on it yet, but it still feels like just over-the-top action that I actually don't mind. And because we have Anthony Mackie's character and Quiet together, it does kind of have a vibe of a buddy road trip comedy, almost kind of like Rush Hour, I guess, in like a weird way. It's so hard for me to explain the energy of the show, but it's just so quirky and super stylish without beating you over the head with it. Or rather, it beats you so over the head with it that it kind of just comes back around to being not that crazy. I don't know, I think once you really live in the show and live in the world, it just becomes normal eventually. It has fun jokes, great action, and mixes in, honestly, really, really good story. Not because it's a great story, but because it's really engaging. That's the one thing I love about this show, is it's really engaging. It keeps me going.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not.
It gets the people going.
And it has a really simple story within itself. It's not super complex. We have John Doe, played by Anthony Mackie, who is tasked with delivering a package in exchange for a better life. Pretty simple. And the whole story is basically him running into trouble relatively quickly, involving a romance and back and forth with Quiet. And we also have this insane clown Sweet Tooth, who doesn't really play a huge role past like the second or third episode, but exists as kind of a background character and really does, and still does honestly get my attention the entire time. I think Sweet Tooth literally has me glued to the screen whenever he's on screen. I just can't stop watching. He's easily one of the best parts about this show, despite not being the main character. And I don't really want to go too further into the story just because I don't want to spoil anything or risk kind of ruining the show for you, but I enjoyed every character. The flower lady, the Formula One driver, even the evil villain or the main villain, Stone. He didn't really have a huge backstory. I mean, he gets one and I think it's fine and it serves its purpose, and his character overall did its job as the easy to hate kind of bad guy. But man, like I mentioned, the action here is great. Apart from a handful of CGI moments, I like the action a lot, and the set pieces were really, really on point. I love the creative direction for this show. Twisted Metal manages to be both super colorful and vibrant while also being really dingy and dark. And I think for me, that's what's so fun about this show. It manages to be both exciting and hopeful, but also sad and broken at the same time. And I think that's honestly the best part about the entire show, is because it's paced really, really well. See, each episode is around 29 to 30-ish minutes, but the show has a great, fast-moving vibe. Literally, it never stops. There's always something happening. The story is always moving forward. Even in an episode where our main characters are locked in a building, our characters are still moving forward. Their story is still progressing, which is really just fun. It kind of reminds me of that Fly episode in Breaking Bad. Not comparing the show to Breaking Bad at all. They're on completely different levels. I'm just saying it has that same concept of being stuck in a room. But I think in a time where most of these post-apocalyptic shows tend to meander around for like 45 minutes or more, it is really refreshing to just get a 10-episode season of pure action and story. And let me not forget, the season is just honestly a setup really for season 2. Without spoiling anything, Twisted Metal, like I mentioned, is a battle royale of just cars, really. And this season obviously doesn't really contain a battle royale with cars or, the huge game that Twisted Metal is based off of. However, the season ends with the setup of this epic battle royale between a bunch of characters that we've met in this first season, and also a bunch of interesting ones that we meet right towards the very end. And honestly, I don't think I've been this hyped after a first season in a long time. Seeing tricked out cars battling with a good simple story, it's just hard to explain. I was just really not a big fan of the show, honestly, at first, but wow. By the end of it, I couldn't get away from it. I don't think there's another show that has made me do a complete 180 like this. Maybe besides Game of Thrones, but even then that was more, I went from loving it to loathing it. Twisted Metal just gets better and better, especially as you watch it and as the story progresses. I feel like the characters just grow on you more. Like, yeah, the humor is both cheesy and forced, but honestly, I think that's kind of the point. I guess it just feels natural after the first few episodes. I don't know, I've never experienced a show like this where I was so just kind of intensely not feeling it, to then by the end wanting so much more. So I don't know if it's like one of those car crashes you can't look away from, because I do think there are parts of the show that's genuinely good. Like, I think overall the acting is actually good. I think it's just some of the writing can be kind of all over the place. I do think the actors are doing what they can with that writing. I think the set design is actually really good. Sweet Tooth looks amazing. Like, all the costume and design and all the character design and everything like that is great. Aesthetically, the show is awesome. I love the way the show looks. It doesn't have a specific aesthetic, but like I said, it manages to do colorful things and dark things all at the same time. Overall, I just love this vibe. It's just awesome. I love the vibe of the show. I'm really excited for season 2 or something. I don't know. I really want there to be more Twisted Metal content. I actually kind of hope that they do like a new Twisted Metal game. I know there hasn't been one in a while, but if they could do a new one on PlayStation or on Steam or something like that, I'm not sure. If they could maybe push one out because the show is doing good, that'd be even better. I feel like the Twisted Metal games have always been kind of this weird thing where I always wanted them to be more, but they never really got to the point where I was really into them. And then there's a game like the Mad Max video game that came out that's actually really, really good, and it has really fun car mechanics and it has really cool like car combat. I think if they could take that Mad Max video game idea and push it into the Twisted Metal universe, that would be so sick, because the Mad Max game is kind of an open world style story game with really good combat and really good physics, and I think if they could put that in Twisted Metal, that would be really cool. But either way, I love the Twisted Metal show. Did you guys watch it? What'd you think about it? Let me know. And yeah, am I crazy for liking this show? What do you guys think about it? Comment below, subscribe, like, all that stuff, and thanks for watching to the end.